Hello. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for coming tonight. My name is Simon Abou-Fadel with the SAG Foundation Life Raft program. I always say that the programs the foundation offers to educate, assist, and inspire actors doesn't mean anything unless you guys come out. So thank you so much for coming. It's a real honor. A couple quick housekeeping items. There's a parking validation on the table. And we'll be taking questions for Keith by emailing online at livestream@sagfoundation.org. Just email your questions in, and we'll get them to Keith. And then in-house here, just raise your hand when you're ready for a question, and I'll bring you this microphone so our online audience will pick it up. And other than that, just a quick disclaimer. Anything said tonight is not necessarily an endorsement or on the part of the SAG Foundation. Just make up your own mind on things that are important to you and seek your own counsel. And other than that, we're going to have a really great time tonight. We're very thankful to have Keith Ferrazzi with us tonight with Ferrazzi Greenlight. And big thanks to Ilyan Kachavin for bringing him to us tonight. Thank you, Ilyan. And let me just give you a quick intro on Keith. He's the chairman of Ferrazzi Greenlight and is New York Times best-selling author of Who's Got Your Back and Never Eat Alone. Please welcome the glorious Keith Ferrazzi.
Fantastic. That was easy. Thanks for that, Tom. Appreciate it. So let me try to set a standard for what we're going to do in the next hour or so. The first thing I want to do is look, you're all here, so I recognize the fact that you get that relationships and building a robust network is important to your personal passion, your success, et cetera. So I don't want to belabor that point too much, but I do want to give you a little bit of data that statistically proves how damn important it really is to your success. Just if for no other reason, that it might elevate the criticality of it so that when you're trying to decide whether or not you want to do this or that you actually spend the time that you need to do to curate those relationships, manage those relationships, and build those relationships for your success. So a little bit of that. Then what we're going to do is we're going to dive in very actively. So I would ask everybody, whether it's out there or in here, take out paper and pencil, because we're going to, by the end of this, have put together something that I think will be transformative for each of you. And it is called a relationship action plan. A relationship action plan. And it's going to be basically your short step to beginning to identify, manage, and sustain the kind of relationships that you need to be successful. I see a couple of friends in the audience here, and if in fact any of you have ever had dinner with me, you know, like Ryan there, that I kick your ass all the time to do just this. So some of this may be a little bit redundant, at least, you know, maybe some of these jokes will be redundant too. One of the things, my firm is a research institute. What we do is we study the art and science of relationships. And it's actually called the Institute of Relational and Collaborative Sciences. And when we started this a long time ago, we started with the presumption that your ability to manage your relationships really was going to be driven by the science of psychology. And in fact, that is absolutely true. Your ability to walk into a room and connect with another individual is highly predictive of the little part of your brain called the reptilian brain, which is not really a little part, it's actually a bigger part than the rest of the brain, the conscious versus the subconscious, right? And your subconscious tells you, there's tapes that play back there. It basically is prescribing whether or not you believe other people are safe or not when you reach out to them, right? Some of you believe that people are so inherently safe that you walk into, like when you were born, you like popped out and you kiss the doctor, right? Others of you look at other individuals as unsafe. And some of you look at other individuals as terribly unsafe. And the more unsafe you see another person to be, you go from being gregarious and open, and I see my future friend, to become shy, recalcitrant, warned, concerned, quieter, more introverted, all the way to the other side of the spectrum, which is you become an asshole, right? Because damn it, I am not going to let anybody hurt me, and so I'm going to push people away before I get that shot, all right? So you got that whole spectrum of what's going on in the tapes that you play in your head. And the good or the bad news is that all of us are at some spectrum along that, and at any given night or time, you could pop it back and forth, right? So that was our original belief, that it was all about psychology. But then what happened was along the way, we added an anthropologist to our team. And by the way, on the psychology thing, here's the other thing to be scared about. Most of your beliefs about other people, your psychology, your interpretation of others, was set almost before the age of 3. Inevitably, it was still in early childhood, 5, 6, 7, etc. By that time, your tapes were pretty much set. Your belief system of other people, your familiar behaviors that you practice all the time today got set very early, right? Now, what that really is frightening about for me was I was like, well, damn, if those things were set so early, what can I do? How can I deprogram that, right? And we've actually worked hard to figure out how you deprogram traditionally familiar behaviors that may or may not hold you back, that stop you from being the success that you want to be with other individuals. And there are some great programs that we learned from and watched, like AA, Weight Watchers, and other programs. We didn't look at any training manuals. We didn't look at any HR organizations. They don't know squat about changing human behavior. But we looked at the places that actually were successful at transforming, and some of these things are addictive behaviors. Are you a pleaser in your life? Are you a control freak? Are you a procrastinator? These are addictive behaviors. They're behaviors you practice that hold you back, and you keep practicing them even though you know you have these behaviors. You know what I'm talking about? So part of those behaviors of being shy is an addictive behavior. Being overly aggressive in your relationships with people is an addictive behavior. These things that may be holding you back are addictive. Now, at some level of our work, and I'm going to get into the more practical stuff for a second. Is this stuff at all interesting, the more psychological stuff? I want to give it some background first, and if not, just say, get on with the stuff. But what really was powerful for us, though, was that when I realized that, and we added an anthropologist to the team. When we added an anthropologist to the team, what we realized is that if you go back 70,000 years ago, when all of you were born as a human species, you were born into one of 17 distinct tribes in your life, right? And as a tribal individual, if you weren't a part of one of those tribes, what would happen to you? Right, you'd dead, ostracized, eaten by something. Exactly. So even underneath what happened to you when you were programmed as a kid, underneath that, you are a human, and everybody here is. In fact, interestingly enough, we were all evolved from a core set of tribes in Africa, which is where the human species started, which I love saying down south because it freaks them out. But the point is that we were all evolved from that core place. Then we went off in all different worlds, and we look different, we act different, but at the end of the day, we're a part of the human species, you're a tribal animal. Now, as a part of the tribal animal, if you are not a part of a tribe, if you're not a part of something, if you don't connect like we want you to connect, right, then you die. And so you long, despite how fearful you might be, to quickly connect with somebody, to walk up to somebody at a bar and say hello, or to reach out a hand and act in a different way, in a more aggressive way, etc. No matter what tapes you're playing, you long to connect. And what we're trying to do is to, as we said, screw psychology. I don't have to deprogram you. I actually have to do something even easier. I just have to let you get out of your own damn way and tap into who you are at your core. Because at your core, you want to connect. At your core, you want to connect. And that's what we spend all of our time doing. Finally, the issue becomes society, though. And sociologically, the world has changed in the last 20 years in such a fundamental way that nobody in this room has the same practice that you used to 50 years ago, being social, being connected. Our families sociologically don't eat together like they used to. I don't know if anybody remember when you were growing up having those Sunday family dinners that was like the broad extended family and all those kind of things. Raise your hand if you remember what I'm talking about. Right, how many of you do those now? Right, you see the statistical drop-off right there? You remember clubs? I remember when I graduated from business school, I went to Chicago and I had to join a club. And a club meant something. It was like something I was involved in. What's a club now? It's like Gold's Gym, right? Or whatever. You pop in your earphones and you get a singular workout. That's your club. Church groups don't have the same power as they used to. Not to say that some of you might not belong to rockin' places like Agape or whatever, but at the end of the day, they don't still have the same power that they used to. We were hardwired and trained and socially acclimated to be social, to be connected, to be in all these cool tribes. We grew up, we learned how to do that, and now in the last 20 years, we don't have that practice. So what kicks in? What kicks in is the worst part of tribal behavior. In the olden days, if you weren't a part of a tribe, if you were a part of a tribe here and another tribe member came close by, you're concerned. You're going to steal our kids, eat our food, like this is a problem. You're not us, you're them. That aspect of tribal behavior is what kicks in when we don't have practice seeing us. So what happens is the more practice you have feeling us, being connected, having some people that have your back, the quieter your reptilian brain is, the more comfortable you are with people, the less fearful you are. But the more isolated you are as an individual, the more that reptilian brain kicks into high gear and you walk in a room like this and everybody's them. And if everybody's them, then what you need to do, you need to push people in, you need to guard yourself, you need to watch out. What you need to be is start training yourself and practicing seeing us. You know, it's like, and where do you get that practice? So my biggest tip and my biggest advice of anything, I'm going to get into a lot of tactics about how do you find mentors and how do you show up at a networking event and what do you do to this and that. I'll get into those tactics, but the biggest thing is the mindset shift that all of us have to make that begins to allow us to authentically trust people quicker and not see pain, difficulty, concern, animosity. Don't see that instantly. We've got to start changing our prejudices. The prejudice that we have of other people won't accept us, other people will hurt us. Those prejudgments and prejudices that we have are the ones holding us back. And we've got to start cutting through that. And we've got to start seeing the potential possibility instead of the negative prejudice. Very quickly, I'm going to do a couple of things. In fact, I'm going to quickly do an exercise. I know it's not going to be as fun for you know, the TV land there, but it'll be something important for this room that I want to do. What I want all of you to do very quickly is to pair up in groups of 3 in a second, okay? When I say go, you're going to pair up in groups of 3. I guess that's not pairing up in groups of 3, but anyway, get in groups of 3. I wasn't a math major. And what I want you to do is I want you to do me a favor. Try for a moment to suspend your prejudice that these people are assholes, right? Suspend your prejudice that people will reject you. Suspend your prejudice that, by the way, people are here. You know why people are here? Let me set a tone. People are here because this group of people wants to achieve. People are here because maybe many of you are so shy that you saw this title and you're like, I really need this in my life. And I need more of this in my life. I need more people in my life, right? There's a group of individuals that chose on a weeknight when you could have been anywhere else to improve yourself. So I think we've got a pretty good group to start with, all right? Now, the second thing you've got to recognize is that as you reach out to an individual, deciding whether you're going to connect with somebody is actually a choice. So I'm going to ask you to share something with each other, and I'll give you a quick question. I'll make it up on the fly. But I want you to share something with each other. And the first thing that you need to do is not necessarily muster the courage or the inspiration. I don't know what you guys talk about. It's not about mustering the courage to share. The first thing you got to do is give a damn. Actually, look into yourself and say, someone's about to share something, someone's about to take a step into vulnerability, someone's about to, to do something that might be tough for them. I'm going to make a damn choice to give a damn. And that's a powerful choice that many of us don't make. Most of us make choices spinning around our heads, worried, what are they going to think about us? Make a choice to suspend your own bullshit and your own concern and your own worry and your own prejudgments and prejudices and try to give a damn. All right? So here's the question that somebody is going to be answering while you try to give a damn. And that question is, I'm going to go for a tough one. Now, don't act, by the way. Right? This is not like one of those, acting exercises where now I get to put on the vulnerable face or whatever. And maybe I don't know I don't know how you do what you do for a living, and maybe that is what you need to do to find your authenticity. I don't know where you find that, but be real is what I'm saying. But here's the question. If you had to pick one experience of your life that most influences who you are today, what would that be? Yeah, right. I heard, you know what I heard? That is the sound of open sphincter panic, is what I just heard. Combination of Jesus. Like, look, I went for the jugular here. I could have had something like, I want you guys to, what is your passion? We could have done that. That would have been fine. What is your passion? Screw it. Let's go there, right? Let's go there. You're here, shut the doors. Don't let them out right now. By the way, there's a time right now where most of you really need to go to the bathroom. I generally find that, a large number of people are sitting there thinking, it's time to go to the bathroom. No, it's not. It's time to answer the question. So what experience, and not just one, and by the way, if you're not ready to tell the one, then tell another, right? What experience of your past helps define who you are today, right? Groups of 3, 2 to 3 minutes a person, have that conversation. Go for it, and give a damn. This is going to be tough for some people. Have the conversation.
One, two. I was like, oh, and he just disappeared.
What's that?
Can we have a group of 4?
Yeah, you can have a group of 4, but you're not going to get any more time, though. Make sure you're all getting a chance to share. No more than a couple minutes per person. Next person.
I can come in. Thank you. Excuse me, he's the speaker. Ma'am.
I put it to the least.
Looking for somebody?
Arthur Chow?
I don't know of.
Yes.
It's okay, just a minute.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Are we not letting people in? We don't have any more. There's a bunch of seats.
I just put some seats out there to accommodate the people that come in.
Yeah, I've got about 6 guests that are still coming, so you can't let them out. You can't tell them they can't come out. I'll go get more chairs or something. There's a whole front row.
That's for your guests.
Okay, just make sure if anybody says they're my guests, make sure we let them in, okay? Thanks. All right, you're only going to have about a minute left. I know you're only starting, but a minute left. A minute left. Wrap it up. Hey guys, come on in. Hey Simon, I just counted about 15 seats that are empty. So let's make sure we're not turning anybody away. Okay, good, thanks. I appreciate that.
Thanks, Milo. We've got some questions online. I'll just hand them to you.
Yeah, just bring them up. It's real time. All right, everybody, come on back up. Come on back up. Come on back up. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. So, how was that? I know. Look, you don't have to finish now. You have the rest of your life to do this, okay? Exchange phone numbers, get information. Thank you. Great. Ogie, you and Sunshine will curate my questions online, figure out which ones get asked when, and raise your hand when it's time and which ones you want to guess. All right, come on back, come on back, come on back. All right, so I just want to do a quick process step on that. How was that? What did you notice about it? Any observations, something interesting to point out? Not what was shared, but more about the process? Go ahead, anybody? Yeah. It was liberating. Yeah. Okay. What else? Yes, sir. dropped walls, and more quickly than you'd ever imagine, right? Look, yes, ma'am.
Just totally, fully engaged.
Right. Yes, ma'am.
I saw light in both of their eyes.
Isn't that nice? And by the way, that's powerful, because if you want to know how to show up and connect with other people, the more you can let your own damn guards down and be real and authentic, it's one of the most refreshing damn things out there, period. Because we don't see enough of it. Over there and then over there. Yeah. Somebody had their hand up? Oh, okay. Right there and then down.
I just kind of have a question for the room in a way.
Yes.
I feel like as actors, we actually get a lot of chances to do this.
Sure, I'm sure.
Much, much more so than the general population. I mean, I'm amazed when people say, oh my gosh, I haven't had a hug in, X number of days or like X number of hours. I'm thinking about my friends and how we interact with each other. And I don't even particularly have all actor friends. And there's a bunch of lots of different kinds of people in my life, but that seems to be a really common experience. But so I just found this as fun.
Good. Well, and I question, here's the question. Does it, among actors, you have that, right? How good are you at being able to take that and allow elements of that to go over the business side of things? So among fellow actors, among the camaraderie of individuals who are in that field, perhaps, how well then when you light up with somebody who isn't? Just a question, I don't know. Jackie?
I was going to say that I just noticed that listening is really a way of connecting. When you're really listening to a person, you're really connecting with them.
No question. And one of the exercise that I just tried to do was on a few fronts. We spend a lot of time helping very large organizations accelerate and manage their relationships. We have recently been brought on to take one of the largest companies in the world that recently came out of bankruptcy and happens to be in Detroit, and help this organization become a thriving company with a culture that's a winning customer culture. And what's interesting about that is as long as any culture is control-oriented, totalitarian in nature, militaristic. By the way, the military isn't that militaristic. There's more of this stuff in relational strength that goes on in the military than you could possibly imagine. And to shift that relational culture to one of service, et cetera. We do what I just did just now. We do this with major CEOs, leaders of countries when I do my work with the United Nations, the Peace Corps, et cetera. What I'm suggesting that you guys do is a universal need for the world to become more conscious of our capacity to relate. And all I'm trying to do, and this is easy, frankly, is I'm trying to give all of you permission to do what you exactly are hardwired to do. And the recognition that the more you do that, the more successful you will be. And let me pause on this successful you will be. I think you all recognize that relationships equal opportunity for you in your industry. In the acting world, your relationships are your greatest currency. I only assume that because I see how many of you who seemingly have no talent make it big. So I can't possibly imagine what the differentiator is other than your relationships, okay? And I also recognize, because when I was a kid, I was actually a young actor for just 2 summers at a summer stock theater, Equity Summer Stock Theater in Pennsylvania called the Mountain Playhouse. I saw some amazing actors get nowhere. And that's what we're here to talk about tonight. Do you all recognize the criticality of relationships and the creation of opportunity? I mean, that's obviously clear to you, right? Everybody talks about it and knows it. But what I want you to begin to shift is the recognition that networking is not some smarmy, eye-darting, insincere, collecting business cards, martini glass in one hand, passing out business cards with the other, baby, I love you kind of thing. Those individuals will not be there for you. Those individuals aren't loyal. Those individuals are not relationships whose currency you can rely upon. And what I'm suggesting to you is you need to begin to curate a set of relationships around you. And there's 2 sets of relationships we're going to talk about tonight. You didn't realize this, but the 2 sets of relationships is how do you connect with a group of individuals broadly, but yet deeply and authentically, such that a level of trust and rememberability is there. So how do you meet somebody at a cocktail event and make enough of an impression so that you can sustain, so that they want to sustain that contact, and then as you do over a long enough period of time, you're the one that gets the casting call because a friend of a friend mentioned you and they went out of their way to remember you. That's the kind of relationship we're talking about. And it requires, I believe, and that I want to tell you is, that's not schmoozing. That's making an impact. You know, and you just made an impact on each other just now. What you just did was powerful. And I'll buzz by, you know, one of the tactics, which is stop the fucking small talk. You will never be remembered for small talk. I don't give a shit what the weather is. We're in Los Angeles. It's nice, okay? Fine. The answer is you've got to make an impression. And you've got to be willing to let your guards down enough to make an impression. So when you're at that event, there's two things that fundamentally drive at the core of all relationships, whether it's a cocktail party or an audition or an interview or whatever it is. There's two things that drive all great relationships in the early stages. Find a way to help, find a way to care. Find a way to help, find a way to care. In our research, the slightly more significant words are intimacy and generosity. Intimacy and generosity is what we're going to be teaching you tonight. And how do you begin to accelerate intimacy on a purposeful and authentic way between two individuals? And how do you begin to find ways to help other people and accelerate generosity? And the way that they work together is this. If I walked up to somebody relatively important or even unimportant at one of these, you know, Los Angeles party kind of things, and I say to somebody, I would like to have a relationship with you, or I want to be your friend, right? The answer typically is, thank you very much, have enough friends. You're weird, go away. The point is, you got to lead with something generous. People are busy. The world is busy. As you meet people, you've got to lead with generosity, and it's got to be authentic generosity. So the first thing you could do for them, particularly in this damn city and this damn business, is actually give a shit. Like the first generous act you can have at a cocktail party around here is listen, is care to listen, is ask questions you actually care of the answer to. Of not when you're talking to somebody looking over their shoulder to see who really is important in this room. You know what I'm talking about? I mean, aren't those the typical behaviors of a networking individual in this town? Yes or no? Right. Is that generous? Does that make you feel like you want to have any connection with this individual? How much damn time does it take? For God's sakes, if Bill Clinton can look you in the eye and give a shit, I think all of us in this room can manage that for themselves. You're not so busy or important. And he does. I mean, the power of that man is that he actually makes everybody believe that he touches, no matter where he touches them. Oh my gosh, this is taped. Oh well. Everything can be erased, but at the end of the day, nothing is erased. Sorry, Mr. President. But the bottom line is that the first act of generosity is something we call universal currency. There's 3 levels of currency, generosity, that you need to cultivate and give to people. The first level is something called universal currency. And that sort of is, are you the kind of person people want to hang around? Become that person, right? Practice being that person. Practice giving a shit. Practice having a conversation, looking into somebody's eyes. Practice being curious. Practice changing your mind just like you did a second ago and caring, instead of cultivating nothing more than transactional relationships with a person and wondering what they can do for you. Right? That's a choice. That's your choice. You make that choice, you're already being generous. More generous than most people out here. Does that make sense to you? Yes or no? Yep. All right, be that. Now, that's a level of universal currency. And then practice it and practice it until it becomes a habit. You've got to deprogram the old habits and rituals. The old habits and rituals are not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about new sets of habits and rituals. Just try it, like you just did, which is why when we learned is that if I'm trying to get you to change your habits and behaviors, I can't just teach this shit to you. This is not going to do it. You know, knowing it, learning it, you're like, I get it, fine. Practicing it, liking what you practiced, wanting to practice it again, that's what's going to get it. So I gave you a taste. Hopefully, you're going to want another taste. Maybe tonight at a dinner after this, right? You're going to want to go out there and say, let me ask a question at the dinner tonight, right? And even if if you don't have the permission because the relationship strength is not as high, if you don't have the permission to ask as serious a question as what we just asked, ask an innocuous one. Tell me what's lighting you up in your life these days. But don't, that's not an invitation for how are you? Fine, great, which means nothing to anybody, right? Tell me what's lighting you up these days. And then pause enough to actually let that person know you want the answer. And then when they give you a little bit of the answer, ask another question. Your curiosity shows your concern and your interest. You understanding how this works? And it's not up here, it's in here. It's a choice, and you'll start to get into new habits. And that's the greatest gift you can all offer, right? Now, the second level of generosity is professional generosity. Professional generosity. Now, professional generosity is really trying to help other people in their jobs and chosen professions. If you're all actors, I would imagine some sense of professional generosity is being willing to practice lines together, being willing to introduce each other to people who have been helpful to you, acting coaches, etc. Being willing to introduce somebody. By the way, the world is not so scarce that a relationship is something that is like a piece of pie, where if I've got that relationship, I will not introduce anybody else to that person, because that person cannot possibly have any other friends other than me. And if they do, it makes my friendship less. Now I'm going to do that. I'm going to keep that to myself. That's ridiculous. In fact, what you want to do is relationships are more like muscles. The more you exercise them, the bigger they get. And you've got to recognize that what I'd love to see all of you do is to curate what I've done in my life. And that is, I become a universal connector. And my greatest currency is that I am constantly introducing people to each other. Now, mind you, if some asshole who's behaving badly would like to introduce to somebody that I know in my network, I won't let them, right? I'm not stupid about it, and I'm not going to be burdensome about it to people. But if I believe that you're an amazingly wonderful person, and that there is value in making this introduction to one or the both of you, right? And that over time I know that you're a generous person. And as a result, I know that making that introduction, because that individual has something that I think can benefit you right now, but I know over the long term you're going to bust your ass to make that person successful, and that the two of you will have a nurturing relationship so that every time they meet for lunch, I'm present, right? That's strengthening my relationship with the both of them. Don't think of relationships in the form of scarcity. Think of it in form of the harder you work it, the more abundant they become, the stronger they get, the better you live in those relationships. Does that make sense to you? Right. Now, by the way, at any point along the way, rough me up. I know this is a tough city. I know it's a tough business. And I'm not Pollyannish. You know, I live in tough places, in tough businesses with tough people, and I do business with lots of assholes. So tell me what you're thinking, because if you're thinking something, chances are other people are too. So let me air those things. So feel free to call me, okay? Call me on my stuff. So professional currency is the willingness, and there's something called social arbitrage. Social arbitrage is you become the person that is just introducing everybody to everybody. And you become the nexus of power. You know, I was a poor kid from Pittsburgh. My mom was a cleaning lady, and my pop was a steel worker. And I never believed, because for lots of wonderful, great story reasons. Thank you very much. Those to Ogie, and they're going to ask me questions. For lots of wonderful reasons, I basically didn't believe that I was as good as most of the kids I grew up with. I went to the rich school, I was the poor kid, right? And by the way, most of those kids reminded me all the time that I wasn't as good as they were in their own little kid ways. And I totally absorbed it and believed it. I'd get teased all the time for my clothes. I couldn't afford the same clothes that they had. Like I remember one time I was in 5th grade, and we used to have the school uniform was this green blazer. And this green blazer you'd buy at Brooks Brothers. We could not afford the gas to get from Latrobe, Pennsylvania to Pittsburgh to go to Brooks Brothers, let alone once we got there to afford the damn green blazer. So my mother was resourceful. She built a relationship with a woman who ran the local Salvation Army. And she said to him, please, anytime that any of the families that go to this school bring their green blazers in, would you call us? Doesn't matter what size, we'll cut it down to Keith's size, but could you do that? And I would hate going down to that Salvation Army to pick up that blazer. I was always so afraid that one of my classmates, right, would come and see me trying on one of these jackets. But it finally happened in 5th grade. I was there. I was trying on one of these jackets, and this girl comes in from my class. And I literally tried to dive into the rack of clothes. And the girl, I didn't think saw me until the next day. She came in. She literally pushed me down, grabbed my jacket. By the way, she was a much bigger girl. Point that out. And she showed everybody else that somebody else's jacket was written in the back. Somebody else's name was written in the back of my jacket. Crushed me. Now, what did that do for me? I was never going to feel like that again. I was going to work harder. I was going to study more. I was going to do everything I could possibly do. I was going to join that friggin' country club that she belonged to. I was going to be able to buy my own Brooks Brothers shirt someday. By the way, the buttons fall off. I wouldn't recommend it. And I was going to go out there and kick ass, right? That chip in my shoulder propelled me hugely in my life. But at some point, what got me there won't get me here, right? At some point, the fuel for my anger and my energy was exactly the shit that was making me a bad leader. I was treating myself like crap and pushing myself harder and harder and harder. And guess what? I thought it was perfectly appropriate to do that with everybody else around me, right? And it took a while, and some dear friends like Peter Guber, I don't know if you guys know Peter from Mandalay, who's one of the menschiest guys in the world, who was willing to beat me over the head with a friggin' 2x4 and make me recognize that I needed to adopt a whole different set of behaviors in order to get to the next level that I wanted to get to. Now, that scarcity mindset stopped me from connecting with others. It made me pretty good at the peripheral stuff, but it didn't allow me to go deep. The most important set of relationships that everybody in this room needs to curate in the early stages of you being a great networker, and I'll get to the other stuff that I know you came here for, but the most important thing you need to do is you need to have 3 people in your life that have your back, like Peter has mine. 3 people in your life that have your back. And the definition of somebody that has your back is on this sheet. In the upper left-hand corner, there are 4 mindsets of a great relationship: intimacy, generosity, candor, and accountability. Intimacy, generosity, candor, and accountability. Intimacy, do you have 3 people in your life that you can fully let your guard down with? Do you have 3 people in your life who, in your full vulnerability and nakedness, that you know they'll love you and care for you, and you're willing to do it, and they're willing to do the same? Are there 3 people in your life that give a shit about you so much that when you're not around, they're thinking of ways to help you? And are you doing that for them? When you go in for that audition, are you thinking, you know what, I really sucked at that. You know who would be good at this? I need to call her, right? Are you working your ass off for a few other individuals, and are they doing the same for you? Candor, who tells you the truth? Really the truth, not the bullshit truth that some of your friends, are nitpicking telling you. And I'm not talking about the kind of friends that just placate you and tell you you're wonderful all the time. I'm talking about the kind of people that tell you truth because they care about you so much that they have to. And they're not going to let you fail. The kind of people like Peter who say, you're acting like a jackass, right? And then who are the people that hold you accountable for what you're supposed to do every week? Who are the people that know what your dreams are and know when you're not stepping up to achieve them and won't let you fail yourself and will constantly remind you that you're not living up to the things that you wanted to live up to? Who's doing that for you? If you're out here like so many other people in Los Angeles trying to do this alone, you will not succeed. You will not succeed. You need some people to have your back. By the way, 50% of Americans say that no one has their back. And I bet it's higher in LA. And of the people that say that no one has their back, 60% of them are married. Now, I'm not Dr. Phil, but don't let that happen to any of us, right? We need those people. So the first thing you need to do is you need that foundation. You get that foundation in your life. You get that place to practice being the kind of human you deserve to be. Quieting that reptilian brain, trusting people, right? If you get that practice with a small group of people, and by the way, you might not start with your spouse. That might be too dangerous. You might not start with your employees. You might not start with your boss. You might not start with your family. God forbid you might not start with your family. You might have to go somewhere else. You might have to go get a therapist, right? I mean, why not? Go find somebody that you can practice that with, and I don't care if you have to pay them to start with. If you being vulnerable requires you to pay somebody to do it just to start, go do it. It's called a therapist. It's called a coach. Best athletes in the world have coaches. Why don't you? You want to be the best athlete? You want to be the best actor athlete or not? If the answer is yes, then you guys know you need coaches to be actors. Why don't you need a coach to be a good human? And if you can't afford it, then do it for each other, that group, right? Now, I want to turn our attention to the other part. What I've done is I've tried to sink the hook on what we call the mindsets. Some aha ways of thinking about relationships that maybe you haven't thought of before, right? And there's a lot more associated with the mindsets. But I want to get to tactics as soon as I possibly can. And so we think about relationship management as mindsets, process, and skills. Now we're going to go to process. Process is what we're laying out here, and I'm going to go through 7 missions that will help you think about building more effective relationships and curating a set of relationships that hopefully won't let you fail. The first step is, if you have a goal in life, and I'm sure everybody in this room doesn't have just a goal, you have a dream. You have a passion and a dream wrapped together, and that's powerful. It's a lot more than the rest of the world has, right? Now the simple question is, who are 3 people that you know or even don't know? Who are 3 people that you could write down that if you had a better relationship with those individuals, you'd be accelerating your potential for all of your dreams and goals associated professionally for now? Write down the names of 3 people. Let's do it. Let's start getting it down. Write them down. Who are 3 people that if you had better relationships with? Now, let's not start with Steven Spielberg, all right? Or let's not start with, let's talk about the universe of realm of possibility, that if in the next 18 months, and by the way, it's okay. If you want to put Spielberg down, I've put names that are audacious on my list, and you should put audacious names. But for the sake of this exercise, we're only going to do 3 to 5 names at the end of the day here. So let's keep it in a manageable way, and then at the end of the thing, just add one more, Steven Spielberg, or whatever you want to do. By the way, I'm sure he's irrelevant these days. I don't know. Anyway, whatever. What I want you to do is I want you to think about who those 3 people are. Write the names down. Now, how many people put a name down of somebody who is currently a strained relationship? Meaning it's a little bit strained, it's not the best relationship in the world, but if it would be better, you would really accelerate your goals. Is there anybody out there like that? Does anybody out there have a relationship that's strained right now that if you were to turn that relationship around, it would be a better relationship that you would accelerate your goals? Raise your hand if you have such a person. All right, don't be a coward. Put the name down. We avoid bad relationships, and we don't try to fix them. And we've got to be able to address, if there's somebody out there that's a negative relationship, most of the time a little bit of attention, a little bit of stopping thinking of them as the Gallup organization recently proved that 6% of the world are assholes, right? They actually don't call it that. They call it actively disengaged individuals. But I interpreted it and made it easy for us. Assholes, right? Now, most of us are thinking, yes, but you don't know the entertainment industry. It's significantly higher. I'm not sure that's true, but what I can tell you is that there are a lot of people out there that look like they're jackasses, but deep down inside really aren't. And how many people in this room, by the way, have good relationships with people who act like jackasses? Raise your hands. Yeah, of course you do. You're in the entertainment industry. Why? How is that possible? How is it possible that you have relationships with people that behave badly? Yeah. Yeah, you recognize that they're just insecure. Somehow you suspended your prejudice. You got behind the wall. Maybe you were forced to because you were roommates, etc. But how often, though, do we bump up against somebody who's acting like a jackass and we instantly dismiss them as one of the 6%? We don't cut them a break. We don't see them as the vulnerable people that they are. We don't see them as, insecure individuals. Remember, I told you the 2 things you need to do with any relationship: find a way to help, find a way to care. And in your heart, you got to find a way to care about anybody. If I want this guy to like me, I got to find a way to care about him. You see that? If I want somebody to like me, I've got to find a way to care about them. If you're going into an audition, you need to do your research about the person that's going to be giving that audition. And what do I research? I research to find a way to like the person. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for what charities they're in. Who can I talk to that have told me that they're a good guy? I want to find out, anything about them that makes me like them, right? Or when I go in there, I in my mind envision the face of somebody else that I really like on that individual, right? and I act like that's Mike Manassi, one of my best friends and earliest clients, right? Who, by the way, hated my guts at the beginning of our client engagement because I was forced upon him by his boss. And so even better, I look at somebody who behaved badly toward me, that now we're like best friends, and I put that face right on that person, and I talk to Mike, right? And as a result, that person can't help but to resonate back to us. If I want to find a way for that person to like me, don't sell yourself. That won't work. It'll smell on you like a bad suit, right? A mile away. Instead, find a way to care about the person. And then your questions need to extract a way to care about the person. Talk about their hobbies, talk about their passions, talk about their kids, talk about anything that lights them up and makes them human. Talk about their background. Get to the question that we asked here, which is like, why are you what you are? And all those kind of things. When you get to truth within an individual, you will start to like them more and more and more, and they will therefore, all of that will be taken care of. They'll like you. That's the answer, young lady, of what you do at a cocktail party to sustain a connection. I mean, if you have that kind of connection or contact with somebody, you know how damn refreshing that is out here or in the world? If you could go deep quick and authentically go deep quick, right? And then the next thing to that negative individual, and by the way, sometimes the way to find a way to care about somebody who's acting like a jackass is pity them. Like if in your soul you're thinking, what a shitty way to live my life, to live their life, to go around the world acting like a jackass. I feel so bad. So at least if you walk in with, oh, on your head, instead of, right? If you walk in soft, feeling for the person, it will begin to transform the relationship already. Now, then find a way to help. Authentic admiration. Even jackasses are worthy of admiration, right? They've done something that's good and positive. Let them know it. They all like to hear it. We all like to hear it. And if it's authentic, don't pick something that you're not authentically, admiring. Don't tell somebody what a lovely person they are when they're jackasses. They know they're not. But talk about their accomplishments. Talk about whatever it is that lights you up about them, that you respect, admire, etc. You do all of that, you begin to connect. And that's just the universal level. Then professionally. The more research you do about an individual, the more you can find a way to help them. I'll give you a great example. I was going in to visit with the governor of Colorado recently. Mutual friend had introduced us, got me 10 minutes on his agenda. We have an online university for people skills. Jackie was actually a member of it, called Relationship Masters Academy, now called My Greenlight. You are a member of it, exactly. And I wanted to give it away to the state of Colorado, and I'm actually working with Gavin Newsom right now as well to give it away to all the students in the state of California as well, in my foundation. But in our for-profit world, we've got this foundation this thing we actually sell. But I wanted to show up, and I wasn't sure if I was going to give it away to him or sell it to him. It didn't matter to me. I wanted more people to learn people skills early. That's what I wanted. So I showed up, and I did my research. The governor of Colorado is a business guy named Hickenlooper. And he had this thing where he talked in his campaign speeches about being so poor when he was growing up that he used to have to wash aluminum foil when he was a kid. His mom and he would wash aluminum foil. Now, I showed up and I said, Governor, nice to meet you, Keith Ferrazzi. I know we only have a little bit of time, but the most important question I have for you is, did you really wash aluminum foil when you were growing up? Were you that poor, or was that just a stump speech? He's like, no. I was absolutely that poor. And I said, well, I was curious. Did you ever buy Tupperware? He's like, hell no. So what did you use as Tupperware? I said, because I think I know the answer. And he goes, Cool Whip containers. I was like, exactly. I knew it was Cool Whip containers. And I said, and I bet you stopped using them only when the damn lids would crack, right? And we both laughed. You would know what I'm talking about. Because they always crack first. It's like, and we both laughed. And then I asked him a simple question. I said, listen, if you think about your success as a businessman and you think about your success as a politician, how much of it had to do with your education? How much of it had to do with your people skills? And he said, I don't know, 85% people skills. And I said, exactly. Are you teaching your kids that in the state of Colorado? I want to make that happen. And I want you to differentiate the state of Colorado in that way. What was 10 minutes turned into 45 minutes, right? He had the Speaker of the House waiting for him on a budget issue, and we just kept going. When he left, he said, as I was leaving, he said, by the way, next time you're back in Colorado, I want you to come over for dinner, and I'll show you we still don't buy Tupperware, right? Now, one of the things, if he hadn't said that, I would have, one of the things another thing, what do you do in a meeting? If you want to continue a conversation with somebody, don't wait until after to follow up with an email to try to follow up. Hickenlooper at that point said, he gave me the opening, and I said, Governor, I'm going to call you on that. I said, I'm looking forward to dinner. When an individual with decent integrity says something to you face to face, right, they want to honor it. So never leave the physical meeting, the cocktail event, etc., without the ability for you to say to the person, I would love to follow up and grab a cup of coffee with you and talk more about this. Is that okay? Can I call your office? Right? Their willingness to say yes is about 50% predictive of whether you'll ever get that meeting. Right? So now you've made the connection, and the next day, of course, you're going to follow up with the admin and say, last night he said I should call and set the meeting. And then you can be persistent because he said it to you. And that persistence is perfectly valid, and at some stage, he's either going to recognize or she's going to recognize that not taking that meeting is an act of some form of, disintegrity. So the likelihood that, no, I'm not saying they all will, but there's a higher likelihood. So what happened? A couple months later, I was in Colorado, called the administrative assistant, got on the agenda. When I finally met with him for dinner, and we did have dinner, he told me that 5 people had tried to cancel that dinner on him, like his various staffers. And he said, nope. I said I was going to do it. I was going to do it. I showed up on a Sunday. It was him, his wife, and his son on their back porch. And we had a lovely dinner, right? And now we're doing a bunch of stuff, including reinventing the foster care system in the state of Colorado, which happens to be a personal passion of mine, which I'll be happy to tell you more about. But we're doing a lot of stuff together, and I have actually found a great new friend, a true new friend. 2 friggin' meetings, starting from a 10-minute meeting. Deepened and accelerated with intentionality my care and my intimacy with the individual in the very instance. Solidified the follow-up, right? All of this was so authentic. I now have a friend, and the 2 of us are going to kick ass and change and put a dent in the damn universe and change a part of the world in a state that is a pretty big damn state, and we can make a difference, right? Similar situation. I was in a conference, and I wanted to meet Barry Diller years ago. And one of the things that I did is I knew that he was speaking, and I knew, by the way, if any of you want to meet me, how many of you would like to spend, 10, 15 minutes asking me questions after this? Right, it's highly unlikely it's going to happen. But I was here for half an hour early, hanging out, talking to whoever wanted to talk to me. If you want to get to know a speaker, don't be competing against several hundred individuals trying to get to that person once everybody's heightened attention is raised to want to meet them. Come in advance, right? As Jackie did with her book, talking to me, asking questions, wanting it signed, and all that kind of great stuff, right? So, get to the individual in advance. So I knew, so what I did is I parked myself. I saw the stage door where he was going to speak at a very large event, and I'm standing there waiting because I had gotten to know one of the gatekeepers around. I said, where is he? He's not here yet. He'll be coming. Great, I knew he's going to be passing by, right? So as he walks by, I said, Mr. Diller, and by the way, I had found we didn't have LinkedIn back then, but now you guys do. You can actually see who the friends of friends connections are on LinkedIn, if I don't know, or Facebook and that kind of thing. You can actually see who your mutual relationships are. I was prepared with warming the cold call with him. Warming the cold call, you warm a cold call in multiple ways. One way you warm a cold call is through a mutual introduction. Mr. Diller, my boss, Barry Sternlicht, happened to be somebody I knew he knew, said that we really should meet sometime. Now, all of a sudden, he can't totally dismiss you. There's a mutual connection of a friend of his that makes him at least pause for a moment. Other ways to warm the cold call is to find out things that they care about. Mr. Diller, I know that you've been looking very, very much into online education these days. Whatever it is, something that you knew will strike a connection, warming the cold call. Do your research in advance of the meeting, right? And then I said, sir, I have had such admiration for you in the way you have reinvented so many businesses that you've been a part of. It would absolutely be amazing if I could just get, at some point, 10 minutes and a cup of coffee. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get so well prepared. That's what I told him. I'm going to get so well prepared, and I'm going to come with some currency and some ability to help you. I don't know what it is yet, but I'm going to figure it out, right? And he just looked at me, and he's like, yeah, sure. I'll call my office tomorrow. Thank you. I'm going to hold you to it, right? It took me 2 years, literally. By the time we were going, and I was so generous and so lovely to his assistants. I got to know all their names on a first name basis. I even sent gifts sometimes to those individuals, like, I'm really sorry, I don't mean to hound you, but I know he said he wanted to see, and they never turned me away. Ultimately, what ended up happening is I got that meeting. It was another one of these 10-minute meetings, right? Sitting in front of him, and in that period of time, and by the way, you know who gave me the most information that found out ways that I could help him? It was his admins. Don't treat these folks like stupid gatekeepers that are in the way. These are individuals who are trying to make their bosses successful, right? If you trust them and make the belief system that these individuals are smart, capable, and you work with them, conspire with them to make their boss successful, they'll make sure you get on the damn calendar, right? Manage the gatekeepers. I always say at events like this, I'm sure there are many people in this room that I'm not going to get a chance to talk to. But if you really think there's a reason that you have to talk to me, something that's generous, that taps into a cause that matters to me, that deserves my time, etc., find out who I'm talking to, who are my friends here in the room. Sunshine, Ogie, Tomo, Mark, just all the folks, I don't want to subject everybody to everybody here, but the folks that I know and get to know them. That's how I became, one of my dear friends is Hillary Clinton. Not because I waited online with everybody else to shake her hand and then get my picture taken and move on. I watched who was holding the clipboard when she was speaking as First Lady. And that woman, Kelly Craighead, is the woman I went over and talked to and got to know Kelly and invested all of my energies. And by the way, Kelly is no longer in a position of power. She's no longer in a position of authority, but she's still a good friend. You don't dispose these relationships. If you're reaching out to identify and build real relationships, you mean it. You're not using people. You're actually developing authentic relationships in service of everybody. And I've done a lot for Hillary Clinton. I've done a lot for Kelly Craighead. I lead with generosity, effusively. And I'm always trying to find ways to be of service. Right? And if you're that kind of person, then it's perfectly acceptable to say, I want to meet you. And I'm going to find a way to be of service to you until you recognize me. Right? People who call me and like, Keith, give me advice. I'd like to have lunch with you. Give me advice. Or I'll buy you lunch. Give me advice. I'm like, I can afford my own lunch. Thank you. And you know how many employees that I have that would love to have, that I need to spend lunchtime with and like worrying and focusing on our strategy? Come with better. Right? And there's going to be the rest of the world out there who's going to have the same attitude. Come with better. So bust your ass to find a way to be of service. So Barry Diller, we sat down there, 10 minutes. He introduced me to his chief operating officer. I got offered a job as chief operating officer of his business at the time. I didn't take it. I ended up going as chief marketing officer at Starwood Hotels. But I've sustained contact with Barry Diller all during this, over this period of time. I don't lose the connections, right? Those are more tactical process steps. You got 3 names written down in your list. How many of you wrote a name down that you don't know? Raise your hands. For the rest of you who didn't write a name down that you didn't know, add one. You're a coward if you don't. Put aspirational contacts. List them. I always have aspirational contacts. I have a list of 10 at all times of people I don't know. And you'd be shocked. If you write the names down of the people that you don't know that you want to get to know, you'd be shocked by how easy it is to get to know them. How many of you ever met somebody that worked for some company you never heard of before? And then all of a sudden, the next week, you see the name of that company everywhere. Yes or no? You know what I'm talking about? Not because those signs weren't there before. They were. What happens is when you bring things up to the forefront of your mind, you see them all over the place. You bring 10 names down on a list, you will see the opportunities to get those people that were lying around in the grass. They just hadn't jumped up and bite you in the leg. Now you see them because it's in the forefront of your mind. The second thing is if you write those 10 names down and you've got 3 people that have your back, you're going to share that damn list with those 3 people. They're going to now be on the alert for the 10 people you want to meet. And they're friends of friends, and they might be in some conversation where they bump into, the production of assistant of somebody on a show that exactly the person you want to get and meet, and now a friend of the friend connection can come to play with you, right? Do you understand what I'm saying? So you've got to be willing to actually write this shit down. Write this stuff down. It's powerful. Major corporations do strategic planning. Do you recognize that? Yes. It's critical to their success. Are you any less worthy? Are you any less important in your world that you need to do your own strategic plan? Sit down, get your people, get your lifelines, those 3 people, and do it together. Your job is to work together to figure out what where do you want to go? Who do you need to meet in order to get there? I want that list that you have there to go to 25 names. Now, at some stage, you've got to start prioritizing. You got to start prioritizing. You can't have the same level of outreach to everybody. You got your A's, your B's, and your C's. And it's okay. Prioritizing does not mean you're manipulative. Prioritizing is what you're doing all the time. You know, any of you have kids? A few of you have kids. Do you spend more time with your children than you do the neighbor's children? Yes, right? Good. I hope so, otherwise that's creepy. So you're prioritizing, right? Perfectly acceptable to prioritize. And I would recommend that on a quarterly basis, you look at your list of the, by the way, not everybody you meet goes on that list. This is not the list of everybody you know. It's the list of the proactive relationships you're going to manage for your dreams and goals. It's the list of individuals that then, once you have that list, you're going to look at and say, how the hell do I help them? How do I bust my ass to help those 25 people? Now, you're going to bust your ass and help the 10 people, the A's, more than you help the B's and the C's. How many of you in this room have a Christmas card list? That should be your cumulative ABC list. You're already doing it to some extent, you just didn't know you were doing it, right? So how many of you have a Christmas card list that has sort of fallen into, disrepair, and you're sort of it's like, oh, well, am I really sending this person a card, blah, 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 blah. Then you need to begin to step up your game. By the way, I don't recommend, as Americans, I don't recommend any of you anymore do Christmas cards. I'm not being anti-religious. I happen to, believe in the holidays, and I'm a very spiritual guy. But here's my point. That holiday is glutted. Don't compete. What you do, now this dirty little secret is out, create Thanksgiving cards, right? Because what a great holiday to reach out to somebody and say, I'm so grateful to have you in my life. Have a lovely, create your own card, get it produced down at Kinko's, whatever it is, right? And send a Thanksgiving card. The other benefit is you get credit for the Christmas season, but you're the only one that will be sending it to them. And it'll stand out. I get at least, I send out about 800 Thanksgiving cards. And I probably get 100 phone calls thanking me for my cards. And I can't tell you how many emails that I get thanking me for my Thanksgiving card. And how many of you get those kind of emails and calls for Christmas cards? No, because it's competitive and it's glutted. Stand out. Don't give Christmas gifts. Hold off your gift and give it at the end of January. Give a bottle of olive oil and some truffle salt or something, and some thing of pasta, and say to the individual, remember the holidays when you really spent time and you were there with your family and the people that you loved, and there was all that emotion? Now that it's the end of January, don't let that go. Here's the starter kit for you to have an occasion to pull together the people that matter to you in your life, right? Something like that, or a candle, and just say, burn this candle and be there for you for a change. You're into the swing of things. Give them a gift when they don't expect it, and you'll stand out, right? Those are the things you need to, and by the way, you don't gift all the A's, B's, and C's, you gift the A's. And then what you need to do is you need to take your A's, B's, and C's and allocate a prioritized outreach strategy. What does that mean? An outreach strategy is at least once or twice a year, you take a look at all the C's on Facebook, see something that's going on in their life, and post something on Facebook, right? There's a process in place. You never lose touch. You're sending out your annual Christmas card, your annual Thanksgiving card, that's your C's. That's a touch point. Birthdays matter to people. I mean, what I do is every morning I get my birthday list and I start making phone calls. 2 or 3 minutes sometimes is all it takes. I often get, a voicemail. I'll sing happy birthday to you. And one time I called somebody and I had skipped my morning calls. It was in the afternoon. I was on the West Coast. He was on the East. I called Kent. I was like, Kent, happy birthday. I got him. It was just dead pause. And I was like, oh shit, it wasn't his birthday. I'm thinking like, oh no, I missed it. And he's like, Keith, and Kent's a Mormon, okay? He said, Keith, I have 8 brothers and sisters. You're the first person that called me today. He said, thank you so much, right? Little touch points in people's lives that say you care. Now, the best thing to do is when you go into Google Alerts and put your A's and your B's in Google Alerts, the names themselves, so that when they close a big deal, when they sell a big project, you want to be right on it and say, congratulations, right? Or, it's like, whatever it is, if you react to what's going on in other people's lives, and what I do is I tend to log the name of the individual, the name of the individual's company, right? Or some passion point that they have. I don't give a damn about football, but if somebody cares about Notre Dame football, they're in the Google Alerts So if they win the big game, then I'm going to call and congratulate them. I don't give a shit about the big game, but I know they do, and I want to congratulate them for something they care about. Does that make sense to you? Or condolences if necessary. I'm so sorry for the indictment, whatever it happens to be, you know? And that's the other thing. You never, ever abandon a relationship. I don't know what your religious proclivities are, but from my perspective, somebody else's job is to judge. It's not mine. And when Martha Stewart, I had met Martha Stewart. I was working for Michael Milken, and we spent a weekend with Martha Stewart, and we were talking about some deals that we were doing with her and her president. And when that indictment came down, I was there. You know, my sister sent me an email, this glowing, wonderful email, saying what an injustice it was. My sister babysits old people, and her husband's a truck driver, right? And so the Heart of America wrote me an email, my sister, and I forwarded it to Martha. And I said, Martha, I just want you to forget, don't ever forget how impactful you are to people. And then this is not impacting who you are to the people that matter to you, you know, that you matter to, right? And you got to be there for people in their moments, not in yours, right? And if you actually decide that that list of people on your list are people you're going to build relationships with, then you're going to want to, right? So look, the process we're going through is still in here. Step number 1, make your list, right? Make your list assigned to your goals. Step number 2, organize them, prioritize them, measure them. Measure the relationship from a -1, damaged relationship, 0, I don't know you, 1, we've been introduced once, right? You met somebody at a party once, they're a 1. If they become somebody you've met a few times, they become an acquaintance, they're a number 2. You're trying to drive them to a 3, a real relationship, a friendship. Not everyone's going to get there, but if you have consciousness, and what gets measured gets happened. So if you start measuring shit, you're going to focus on it. And it's just the process in place. Purposeful doesn't mean fake, by the way. Purposeful just means purposeful. There are some very purposeful relationships in some of your lives that I hope weren't fake. It was called dating. Like many of us got into relationships with people, we met them, and we made a conscious decision. I'm going to build a relationship with that individual, right? And I then set apart a process. What am I going to wear? What am I going to say? Where are we going out to dinner? Because you're purposeful doesn't mean you're fake. It just means you're purposeful. So your list of 25 can be purposeful. Go build purposeful, real, rich relationships. And just because you're managing it, I mean, how many people in here have a to-do list? Raise your hands. Yeah, of course. How many people until before tonight had a people plan? That's ridiculous. That's what I'm trying to change in the world. I'm trying to get you to recognize that the most important element of your success is people. Why the hell don't you have a people plan? Every goal you have, put what I call a wrap around it. Every goal deserves a wrap, a relationship action plan. I've recently become the foster father. I've become the father of a bouncing baby 13-year-old football player. His name is Daniel. He's a cool-ass kid. And you know, he's a foster son. And I got to tell you, this is one of the most gifted, amazing, talented, great kids who was headed toward delinquency because of the stupid damn system that he's in. 80% of the U.S. prison population came from foster care. Right? We discard these kids at 18 with no relationships, no foundation, nobody that's ever loved them, no people skills, and we wonder why they turn to the only tribal instincts that they can, which is their gangs. That's where they get their tribe. They have to find it somewhere, right? Or prostitution and all those other things. And any of us in this room could be the kind of committed individual that has some permanency for these kids, right? And we're not just mining them for the $700, you know, a month check that the government gives us to take care of them, but you actually give a damn about these children. So Daniel, I put a wrap around him, put a relationship action plan. I don't know anything about raising an inner city black kid, right? I don't know what that's like. So Sunshine enters my life. Sunshine is a woman who I met down in Australia. And I was at a dinner party, and I needed to get the hell out of the dinner because it was stiff. And I went where I would normally go, into the kitchen. And I saw Sunshine. She was in there cooking up a storm. And we started talking. She told me her story. She told me her story about growing up in foster care. She told me her story about being a successful TV personality associated with cooking and having a cooking show, but deciding to pursue her philanthropic passions of running around the world and researching Aboriginal cultures and their relationship with food. And she ends up in Australia. She runs out of money because, guess what? They're damn prejudiced down there. And I'm sorry if anybody from outside of Sydney is here. But it's tough. And they weren't hiring her like they were in every other city that she was popping into, making money and doing her thing and moving on. And I was like, wow, this is a woman who could help Daniel. This is a woman who, I didn't realize how much she'd helped me. And I'm like, come home with me. And she did. 24 hours later, she's on a plane. She's back in Los Angeles. And she's been with our family now for how many months now?
4 months and 27 days.
Yeah, it's fantastic. By the way, if any of you would like to learn how to eat well and have that food not suck, she's all about it. And she's absolutely phenomenal. You should hire her for any events you're doing. She's phenomenal. But my point behind this is everything I do, I put a wrap around it. Daniel's karate coach, Mr. Chun. I wouldn't normally hang out with Mr. Chun, but I now am hanging out with Mr. Chun. We're going to go to dinner with Mr. and Mrs. Chun. I want to build a relationship with Mr. Chun because he's kicking my kid's ass and putting him some discipline into that kid that I think is phenomenal, right? I get to know his teachers. You put a wrap around it. What's your goal? Put a wrap around it. You want to change the world? Put a wrap around it. Gandhi put lots of wraps around his plans. You know, it's the people. You know, why is it this little Tibetan village up there gets all the attention? Why? Because the Dalai Lama knows how to put a wrap around it. How do presidential candidates win? Because those presidential candidates know how to put a wrap around it. And you, to be successful, and as well as those other untalented actors that are up there on the screen, need to put a wrap around it. And, more importantly, you are talented, so you have both. Exactly, you're talented. Damn, girl, you're talented. We all do. We all do. We all need strategy. So you're going to get that list. You're going to curate that list. You're going to prioritize that list. It's going to grow from 25. You're going to get that list going well. It's going to get up to 100. Might get up to 150, right? 150 is called the Dunbar number. We start freaking out when we start managing relationships more than 150. But if you get really good at it, you can scale it. You can scale it. You can scale it up to 800. Now, your A's are pretty much your A's. You know, your top 10 or so people that you're really going to invest in, talk to all the time. But then you're going to change the priorities. But chances are, I hope, that if somebody was an A, they're not going to go off your list. That feels usury. If somebody was an A, they might go to a C for this year or two. And that's okay, because there are people, and like I think about people in my life that I have such a close relationship with. They were like my best friends from college. They don't leave my list. They're on my list, but they're C's. There's nothing relevant that we're working on together. I don't need to talk to them every week. It's okay. They're a C. It doesn't mean that the intimacy level isn't very high and that my commitment to them isn't high, but my proactive outreach to the individual doesn't have to be as frequent, right? So that's what you have to start thinking about. You have to start thinking process. Where's your people plan? So the next mission is take a look at that whole list, bust your ass, find a way to make them successful. That's your job. And you're going to put more energy in making the people at the top of the list more successful. And if you keep doing that in your life, you'll be more successful. And then accelerate the relationships with every interaction. Go deep. Stop the small talk. Care. Be authentic. Make that group of individuals feel touched by you, right? As best you can. Now, if at the end of the day people are rejecting your ovations for being real and touched and authentic, etc., okay, maybe you just keep them on the list and you don't push their what's called a Johari window, which is the window with which we all feel comfortable being intimate with other individuals. Some of us are like this, and some of us are like this, right? So maybe you let go a little bit. But I got to tell you, you know, and sometimes you walk away from relationships, and that's okay too. But you don't need to tell them on the way out. Unless you're married to them, then it's probably not a bad idea. Let them know that you're leaving, all right? But you don't need to burn bridges. You really don't. You know, leave those relationships at least at the stability of which they were, even if it wasn't stable, because who knows? They might be available to you at some point in the future. Their Johari windows may open. Their time, their commitment, the shit they're going through might be less, whatever it is. You know, leave yourself the space in the opening to remain and retain in that relationship. Yes, ma'am, Jackie. Yep.
I don't know if you're going to address this. What do you do when you
Mike.
Thank you. What do you do when you have, if you want to address this later, I totally understand, but I just wanted to ask you, one of the things is like, I have like business cards of people that I've met maybe in 3 months, and I just meet people. I'm very outgoing, but I'm not following up. What do I do to really like sort of
Yeah.
rebuild those? That's
Well, a
kinda
couple of
non
things.
sequitur
First of
to
all,
what
when
we're
I collect
talking about.
business cards, so you're at an event, right? As I just came from an event, got a bunch of business cards. The first thing I do is two things. Number one is I write A, B, or C. Right? Right there, you write on the card A, B, or C. You make a decision right there. Is this person going to be a managed relationship, or is it just going in my pocket? Doesn't mean if it goes in your pocket, you don't put it in your database, and you don't have it there, because if at some point, you know, you're like, you want to call up that address, I met somebody at such and such, but try to make a decision, A, B, or C, right? The other thing is if there's something that you found that you cared about them, or some piece of information because you've been good at this and you've actually curated, you've been curious, you've been conversational, write down something. It's amazing how quickly we all forget. And actually what this actually does is, it's not even that you have it for reference in the future. Writing it down loads it in the brain. There's two parts of the brain. One part is loading it. There's two parts of memory. One part is loading it into the brain, and the other one is your capacity to process it. When we forget stuff, it's not that we forget how to access information. That part of the brain actually doesn't get weak as we get older. The part that gets weak is the part of loading it. We actually don't, if we're the individuals that multitask, you're poorly loading the information. You're meeting a bunch of people at an event, you're poorly loading the information. Who is that person? What is this card about? Why do I have this? Don't let yourself do that. Write it on the card, right? Then, what you also do is, there are going to be cards where you have no interest in ever seeing this person again, or low interest, right? That's the left pocket, right? Right pocket are the ones you have to follow up on. Because what happens when you go back from the event, you got a stack of cards like this, that's intimidating. And the mind is like, I don't have time for that. But if you've already halfway triaged the cards, follow up in the right, non-follow up in the left, then you pull out and there's fewer cards, and you're like, oh, I can handle that. Does that make sense to you? Right, so it's little tiny simple systems like that will be helpful to you in getting to that. Yes, Yogi.
Rich Skinner had a similar question in email. He said, what is the best way or advice to create a real Hollywood network for someone from the East Coast 3 to 4 times a year?
So, in other words, somebody from the East Coast comes out here 3 or 4 times a year. What's the best way to curate that relationship? Well, obviously, make sure that your time spent out here is rich and robust. Make sure that you have a few key anchor tenants, anchor friends out here that are almost laying the groundwork and prepping with and for you in advance of coming out. Make sure that when you connect with those individuals, your sustaining of the relationship is strong. I got to tell you, 2 years of stalking Barry Diller, right, actually got to the point where over different times, I mean, like I was at, you know, at the time originally, I'd only met him once in passing. My emails back and forth accelerated the relationship to the point where he and I were a two. Like he was responding to my emails like that. And he was, you know, jibing with me back and forth in funny quips, right? One of the things that I think many of you do is you have a meeting or an event or a touch of a person, right? And then you think that these relationships are scarce. I don't want to bother people. No, the presumption is this is the first step to a friendship, right? Push the assumption of deeper relationship in your subsequent communications, right? Be fun, be lively, be interested, do your research, reach out. You know, we work with a lot of large organizations and salespeople who get the meeting, right? And then they get the meeting and they don't follow up for a year because they had the meeting. And it's like bullshit. That's just the beginning. You need to curate that relationship and grow it, and you can grow it virtually. Particularly, look, in the old days, I had card catalogs to go do my research with, right? You guys have Google. The ability for you to know a ton of stuff about people, to stay tracking what's going on in their lives, to stay in touch, relevant to them, to find ways that they might need your help and to do social arbitrage and introduce them. By the way, there are people that you could introduce them to that you don't even know. Think about that for a second. Think about this for a second. So imagine, you want to get to know somebody, right? And you read up and research about him, and you're like, that person really should know so-and-so. And you reach out to so-and-so, particularly the higher cachet and currency that person is, and you say, do you know so-and-so? I would love to introduce you to them, right? And they're like, no, but that would be great. Sometime if it makes sense, you know, I'd love to introduce them. Great. Now you got to go reach out to that person, right? And say, would you like to get to know that person? And if they say yes, of course, then you make the introduction and show up to lunch, And I'm actually not joking. I mean, because all you're, listen, these powerful people, if they don't already know each other and you can be the reason and the conduit to make it happen, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with that? So, and I got to tell you, you can probably actually make that work. You got to make sure you're sincere and authentic about it, etc. But it's like, I want to bust my ass to make you successful. How am I going to do it? How do I serve you? And I will find a way to serve you. Right? I'll be your walking, talking sales rep. I'll be your walking, talking PR agent. I'll be your walking, talking whatever. If they're an A-level priority worthy of that kind of outreach. All right. Accelerate the relationships with real intimacy. Number 5, and by the way, these are all missions from, and this is the key. You doing these things in small mission-based formats will start to condition you to be more managerial of your relationships. You leave here and say, boy, that was fun, that was nice, whatever, he was energetic, whatever. Nothing will happen. You got to take one damn thing out of all of this and do it. Just one. And if you like it, it might be contagious enough to do something else. Right? That's what I want you to do. Small incremental steps. Lifeline relationships, you really need them. Go get them. Who are your 3 people? And then start meeting. You guys need to meet every week for lunch. All of you need that motivation. All of you need that pressure. Go find your 3 lifelines and promise to not let each other fail. And meet once a week at some cafe. And you're going to set your goals. You're going to write your plan. You're going to kick each other in the ass if you didn't send the emails out that week. You're going to do all the stuff you need to do. Keep that pressure going. Do many of you have that in your life? Go get it. Could you see the value of it? It's so easy. It's cheap. It's free. It's all around you. It's in the richness of the people around you. They're not going to hurt you. They're actually there for you. Particularly if you give a damn enough about them and your willingness to be there for them, it's a mutual commitment. You read lines with each other. Why can't you curate your strategies with each other? Be there for each other. Those lifeline groups, and that's what, when I wrote the book, Who's Got Your Back, it's the methodology to build a set of relationships that are powerful. The 2 books that you can have as resources is Never Eat Alone, which teaches you how to go out and build that broad and rich, robust network. This one right there, exactly, the one that Jackie's got. And Never Eat Alone is very good in this industry. Right? It teaches you how to build these kind of relationships authentically, broadly, etc. But the final straw will be, do you have those people that won't let you fail? And that's Who's Got Your Back. Right? And that's the other one that Jackie has. Right? Next question.
Keith, Lily Richardson emailed, I understand completely the concept of relationships in regards to success in any manner of life. Does this concept have any ties to the laws of attraction expressed in The Secret? Thank you for taking your time to help us think and operate more successfully. Lily Richardson, Tempe, Arizona.
That's great. Thanks, Lily. Yeah, the answer is yes. But listen, let me tell you something. One could believe in the spiritual nature of the law of attraction, right? And that's not a bad way to live your life, spiritually believing that the universe is there for you, the universe, that all of us are worthy, and that the more we recognize that we're worthy, the more the universe will reward us, right? Like a great mother power, the higher power, etc. Let's assume you don't believe any of that crap, right? It still works. Why does it work? Because if you put out there what you want, people will be able to hear what you want, and you will have a higher likelihood of getting it fulfilled, right? Also, remember what I said, if in the back of your mind, you keep your goals and dreams there, versus putting them on a vision board, right? Where you actually thought about it, and you cut out pictures, and you took the time, you will see opportunities that were lying in the grass before that are now, have always been there lying in the grass. And now they'll be prominent, just like that advertisement or just like that logo that you'd never seen before. The sheer act of bringing something from your subconscious to your conscious will make it happen, just psychologically. So I don't care whether you believe in the spiritual or whether or not you just believe in the practical. The answer is yes, the universe will reward your intentionality. And the more open and transparent you are about what you want to achieve, the more people and the universe will reward you for that. All right, does that make sense to you? So no matter what you believe, it's going to happen. It actually, I mean, it's happened to me. I mean, this watch right here. Years ago, I had put a vision board together. And, you know, in one part of the small, I was like, okay, I'll put some stuff up there that's just creature comforts, like, you know, house that I was really interested in, and watch and car and all that kind of stuff, right? And then the rest of the thing, I'll build my team, serve the world, make a difference, and all those other things. You know, be fit, stay strong, you know, be sexy at 60, that kind of stuff. I'm not 60 yet. But all the things that I wanted to do with my life, right? Put it on the vision board. I don't buy fancy stuff like watches and things for myself. I still have this poverty mindset that says, hell, I'm going to spend $10,000 on a piece of jewelry. That's ridiculous. I'm thinking like, I can buy a car for that. I know I can't, but I still think that way, right? Probably can buy. Of course you can buy a car for that. It won't be a great car, but it'll be a car. And then all of a sudden, somebody that I love near and dear to me gave me a watch for Christmas one time. And it was this watch. And what was interesting about it is, a year later, I pulled out an old vision board. I had made iterative vision boards. And I looked at that vision board, and I was like, holy crap, that's the watch. That was the watch. Now, you could believe that that was spiritual, or you could believe that the person who bought me that watch saw it on my damn vision board. I'm not sure which, but I got the watch, the exact watch that I wanted. So build your lifeline relationships, right? Establish your brand using social media. I know that this industry isn't particularly a LinkedIn group. I don't know if it is or it isn't, but it's a very powerful. And I guarantee you the business side of this industry is more LinkedIn than not. Facebook, Google Alerts, Twitter, all of those things are very powerful. They are worth your time. We don't even know yet how increasingly important they're going to be. Stay on the cutting edge, but don't waste too much time, right? I mean, stay on the cutting edge, explore stuff. Once it's a trend, make sure that you're a part of it. I do find that, you know, my ability to be on Facebook is most powerful because I get to see what's going on in the lives of others. And then when I connect with them, I start caring about them because I start seeing what's going on in their real life. You know, they're divulging to us the stuff that makes us care. Now, finally, what I want you to do tonight and when you go home is I want you to take that list of the people you have, and I'd like all of you to send a couple of emails to anybody that you have some intimacy level, a 1, level of intimacy, you've been introduced, a 2, an acquaintance, a friend, whatever it is. I want you to reach out to them, and I want you to lead with universal currency. I want you to reach out to that person. I want you to say, you know what, I have to tell you how much I admire you, if it's true. I want to tell you, I've been thinking about, you know, I went to this speaker talking about how important relationships are in our life, and I wanted you to know how important this relationship is in my life. Or, when I met you, I got to tell you, you made an impact on me. You know, I know it's been 4 months, and we haven't reconnected, and we said we were going to do lunch, right? But I've come back, and I've often thought about the fact that I should have reached out to you, and now I am, because you've stayed in my mind, and I wanted to make sure we connected, right? Whatever you want to say, you use the words that are authentic to you, that work for you. But lead with generosity, right? And then, afterward, ask them for a cup of coffee. You know, ask them whatever. When people reach out to me and say that they've read my book, right, and they've told me the story of how they've used it, implemented it, and how it's worked in their lives, that's generous to me, right? Don't reach out to me and say, you know, I want your advice. Then I'm like, oh, that's great. Did you read my book? No. Oh, fuck you. It's like, read the damn book, right? I'm wasting my time to like tell you, I mean, it's like, read the book, then come with me with smart questions, right? Come with me with smart questions, you know, do whatever it's like, no. There's lots of people in this world that I'd like to give my time to that have made the damn effort. Do your research, do your homework, find ways to be generous, lead with authenticity, lead with generosity, build that network more robustly. Look, I want to end with a story, but I want to do some questioning first. I want to do some more Q&A. Let's go to the audience. You guys have any questions? Yeah, yes, ma'am. Oh, great question.
Inspiration.
Yeah.
And then we need to then get back into being out there.
So the question was, what do you do in an artistic form that does require inspiration time, downtime, right? And my life sounds like a peripatetic, you know, running 1,000 different ways, etc. Now look, I'm a writer. I find the time. Now the way I balance it is in chunks. I take my creative time and I schedule it. And I schedule 2 weeks of reading, and I check out for 2 weeks, right? And I schedule, and by the way, nobody misses me, right? So you can schedule deep, rich chunks of downtime, and not be missed by your robust network. But then when I'm out, and I'm using my time. I'm sure there are many of you that could schedule, I have a buddy of mine who's a wonderful writer, Chad Hodge, whose show was the Playboy Show that was on air recently. And, Chad used to just chunk his mornings. That was his creative time. And he'd wake up early, and that was unviolatable. If anybody wanted to spend time with Chad, that was his creative time. And after that, then he's open and he's social. So I do think you just have to be disciplined, and you've got to decide whether you can slice it into days or whether you have to just step back and be gone for a week or 3 days. You've got to test that with yourself. Next question. Yes, in the back.
Keith, hello. Hi, my name's Andreas.
Hey, Andreas.
So, sounds like you
By the way, I got an idea for you guys. This is a little opportunity for everybody who's asking a question to have a 30-second commercial, right? My brand just got an hour infomercial. Your brand, when you ask a question, could have gotten a 30-second commercial. You're all actors. There's people watching this. There's people in the room, right? Hi, I'm Andreas, and what? I mean, put it out there. What do you, what are you hoping to do?
I'm
What
the
do you
only
do?
guy
Just
with
give
the
it a-
long hair in here.
Right. But you know what I'm saying? It's like we use those opportunities to build your brand. Asking an insightful question preceded by your name and your intentionality is a way to capture this whole audience's attention. You never know who's in the room. Anyway, I don't mean to put you on the spot. Go ahead, Andreas.
No, absolutely. I love the soapbox there. So, it sounds like you've had a fairly successful rate in connections with engaging relationships. I'm just curious, have you ever had an experience once you had your epiphany, or when you started incorporating this, the shift in your patterns of behavior, when you started really treating relationships altruistically? Have you ever had to salvage relationships where perhaps by your own doing, or the other person who was just a
I've screwed up lots of times.
And
No.
just,
I'll give you lots.
Sure.
As you can tell, and as methodological, sincere as I try to be, I'm also, as you can tell, pretty damn impetuous, right? And my passion is very strong, and I tend to react quickly to stuff. So I have stepped on my foot plenty of times. I'll give you one example, and I'm not going to give you the name of the person because she's pretty famous, and it would be. I just don't want to do that to her. There was a woman who I had a business relationship with, who basically I screwed up. I assigned somebody in my organization to the account who wasn't the highest level of quality. I didn't know it at the time. It was an authentic mistake, but it killed me because this woman has gone on to gain greater and greater prominence and success in the world as one of the most prominent women in the world. It's not Hillary Clinton. And she saw me for having had a failed quality engagement with her. Nothing ate at me more to have damaged a relationship like that. But I didn't stop. I would bust my ass to find ways to be helpful to her. Now, I didn't want to be obtrusive. I didn't want to be stalker-like. I was respectful of the fact that she wanted space because she, let us go from the engagement. But I would still make sure that if any chance I could, send her an email, congratulate her for something, right? I would, little tiny doses of things. Then all of a sudden, one of the things that we do, and by the way, we're doing it this year, we go down to Guatemala, to Antigua, if anybody knows Antigua. And we stay at this wonderful mission in Antigua. Ogie is, if anybody's interested, is going to be probably going down with us, unless the Apple job is going to get in the way. But, we have a wonderful vacation. We do our strategic planning for the year, for the coming year. But we also, every day, go out and serve orphanages. And we raise money and bring it down, and literally $1,000 makes about 10 kids able to eat for a year when they were only eating every other day. I mean, it's really powerful, and it's such a bonding experience for spouses to do, and we're taking Daniel down this year. So I can only imagine the impact that it's going to have in his life, right? What I did last year, I took a picture of a little girl with a sign holding up, thank you, and then this woman's name. And I wrote a note, and I just said, hey, I'm down here. Here's my ritual for the holidays. And this little girl, I bought her 20 chickens for her orphanage. She and the rest of the orphanage is going to eat because of you. And by the way, I brought cookies, and I think she enjoyed those more than the chickens. Signed, Keith. I got a phone call 2 days later. Right? So I sustained my momentum, and I just kept thinking about how do I help this very, very powerful woman? How do I help her? And the generosity that connected with her was ultimately the generosity of this gift of a donation in her name that helped a bunch of little kids and a picture. Now, I'm told, haven't gone to her office yet, but by the way, we are now back in business with this company. And I am told that that picture is a picture that she actually had framed, and it sits on her desk at her office. Look, we all screw up. And if we screw up authentically, and even if we screwed up badly, but if we're authentic in our repentance, and by the way, when she finally called me, I so apologized, and she was like, "What are you talking about?" She didn't even remember that she had fired us, right? And I was like, no, I want you to understand, this has eaten away at me. She's like, "You're crazy." I'm like, "Yes, I know." But it was very important for me to sustain the relationship and try to recover. Humility. Say you're sorry, for God's sakes. If any of you in this room have erred with somebody in some way, seek forgiveness. And if they don't give it to you, that's fine. Seek forgiveness again at some point in the future, particularly if you know you've done it. Yeah.
Because I think it's an important thing to remember, like you just realized, that oftentimes the other person doesn't see the end of the relationship.
Don't even see it. People are busy. Just because they haven't called you back doesn't mean they give a damn. I mean, it's like they haven't even thought about it. You never know. Well, how many of you have ever had relationships in the past that you wished you had sustained, but you didn't? And you're like, "Oh, how do I get back in touch with them?" Right? Have you ever thought that? Yeah. Get over yourself. Just call them. Get back in touch with them and say, "You know what? I screwed up. When we were in a relationship, when we were hanging out together, when we were friends, etc., it was powerful. It was cool. You were great. We were great together. We were having fun, etc. How stupid of me to have lost touch. I would like to be back in touch." Now, that doesn't generally work the day after Variety has announced that they're now the new casting director of something, right? So, give it some time, or else you'll be seen as one of those smarmy eye darters trying to use somebody. But even then, make a joke at it if you're really going to do that. If you see someone's name pop up in Variety for a brand new project, why don't you reach out to them and say everything I just said and say, "And by the way, I'm sure I'm one of 1,000 other people that crawled out from underneath a rock that hasn't stayed in touch with you for a long time. And it's embarrassing that I'm one of those individuals, but I do have to say authentically, I enjoyed knowing you when I knew you. And if you'd be willing to forgive my lapse of the relationship, recognizing, and I promise I won't ask anything of you in the short term, or do some research and find some way to be of service when you reach out to that individual. Just be honest. Be honest. Most of you aren't evil in this room. You don't have to worry about being seen. Most of you, and I don't know, the 6%. I didn't say most of you don't act like you're evil. Some of you do, sure. Other questions? Gentleman there, and actually, right there, yeah.
Hello, Keith. Hello, everyone.
Hi.
First and foremost, I want to say thanks for the great info. About me, I speak 3 languages that you've probably never heard of in your entire life. That's just my life. My question is situation specific. If you're at an event and you're speaking with someone, you're making a great connection, this seems to be happening to me often, but then someone else enters the picture. There tends to be lapse in etiquette at a lot of these events. So I'm wondering, and every time I just don't know how to really handle the situation, but if I'm speaking with someone and we're making a meaningful connection,
right.
Someone else sort of,
right.
and it's not even...
Butts in.
It's not even always necessarily malicious. It's just
no, of course not.
Inconvenient.
Right.
But I find myself trying to...
So you know what you need to do? Serve them both.
Right.
Look,
okay.
Imagine being that poor son of a bitch who was lonely and trying to make a connection and saw 2 people talking and came up to have the conversation, and you acted resentful for butting into your powerful conversation. How crappy would you feel? Right. No, our job is to welcome people. You've just been having a great connection with somebody, right? Now try to bring that person in. Your job is to be of service. You have no idea who that person is, and at a minimum, your job is to welcome that person in. So it's like this person comes up, And you can even say to them, look, have you ever noticed when you're like talking to somebody and someone's like waiting there? You know? Well, you could be like, oh, what a rude person, or you could be like, God, I know what that feels like.
You did that tonight. You were very graceful when I was like talking to you and you said hello to everyone else.
Well, yeah, I mean, your job is to bring people in. So let me just sort of play this out, right? I'm going to be an actor here, role play. So, you're having this wonderful conversation and somebody's coming up, whether or not they're just hanging there, you're like, hold on a second, bring the person in. Say, and then talk to them. It's like, hey, listen, we were just into this really cool, deep conversation. Please, stay, hang out with us. We're just finishing up. We're just in the middle of it. Just be transparent. It's like but like I don't want to lose. I don't want to lose this point with him. But hang on, and we're like bring you into the thing, catch up with us, and contribute. Right? Okay. Now, you know what I'm saying? But bring them in. Don't shut people out. And that person, I had a wonderful, interesting situation where I was that stalker hanging around just waiting. Right? I was down at the TED conference, and I had spoken that day. And I was standing there, and Bill Gates was walking through the lobby, and it was late. And he was talking to some guy. And it was just the two of them standing out there talking. And I'm like, okay, well, actually, he didn't remember, but I launched my company off the back of Microsoft. I was giving a speech one night at Bill Gates' annual CEO event, and something that I had done sparked the interest of some of the executives. I ended up selling a big project and gave me the courage to go off and start my own firm off of a major Microsoft contract. So he, and I had dinner with him years ago at the starting of my company, the night before that big event. He, Warren Buffett, and a bunch of other people. But he wouldn't have remembered, and I didn't expect him to, right? So he's standing there talking to this guy. And I'm like standing there, right, waiting to have the conversation because I knew that it was late. And after this conversation, Bill was going to go that way to his room as quickly as possible. So I'm like, that way, right? It's like between him and the elevators from my perspective, right? And then I got panicked because other people started gathering around. And I'm like, ooh, no, over there, right? Because I want to make sure I'm next in this conversation because I need to have this conversation before he excuses himself and goes to bed. And like, I'm panicked here. And finally, I was like, oh, screw it. And I just walked up and I said, I'm sorry, you guys are in such a deep conversation, and I knew you couldn't help but to recognize that I've been hovering here rudely, listening in on your conversation, inching closer and closer, right? But I just want to, I want to let you have your conversation, and I'm sorry for intruding, but I want to donate my software of my online university to all of your Gates scholars. I really want to do that. I'd love to spend some time on it, but I'll let you guys get back. Excuse me, right? And I parked back up. At which point, he just laughed, and he goes, no, that's right. We are old friends. We work together. Come on over. What were you saying? Right? So I was just, as openly and as apologetic as I possibly could be, but I had my passion. And I wanted to make sure that, and my passion was of service, right? And that gives me courage. When I go to an event, I put on those two things. Try to find a way to help, try to find a way to care. When I go to an event, I act like a host at other people's events, right? Because why do I entertain at my house all the time? Because I feel insecure and I don't feel like I deserve to be at most parties, particularly parties out here. I really don't. I hate going to other people's parties. They're uncomfortable for me. They're difficult. But what I do is I put on the hat of a host in my mind. What does a host do? Makes everybody feel good about themselves. Like, I'll go up to people and I'll be like, would you like a drink? No, really. I was like, would you like a drink? I'll be happy to, it's like I try to be a host. Or I'll say to you, what a fantastic scarf. That's really awesome, right? And I'm like looking for the thing, and then when I find the authentic thing that's a compliment, I let them know. Why? Because I get courageous. If I'm skulking around a room trying to find people that I can network with, I feel dirty. If I walk around the room saying, can I make some people feel good about themselves? Right? Can I find a way to help somebody? I actually get courage. And then that courage is something that I can bring to that event. And I can bring to my relationships with people. And that same thing that I do in a meeting, I do at a cocktail event. Find a way to help, find a way to care. Find a way to care, find a way to help, as much as possible. In the back of the room.
Hi there. My name is LK Avalar. I'm a recording artist.
LK!
How's it going, Keith?
How you doing, buddy? Good
Always a pleasure seeing you do your thing, and you're so inspiring. You just mentioned about care, and in your book, Who's Got Your Back, you mentioned creating lifelong relationships through caring for people. how do you suggest finding ways to care for people who you just meet, like right off the bat?
First of all, choose it, like I said earlier. You literally can psych yourself into caring. I can look in somebody's eyes, and I can find a way to care. You really can. I mean, you guys do this, I think, all the time, don't you? Don't you look for your motivation? And some of you in your acting form, aren't you authentically finding that motivation and tapping into it? You know, when I looked at you earlier and I said, I'm going to put the face of Mike Manassi on this person, I literally did that, and I actually care about you more now. My mind, my psychology has changed. You change your psychology. And that's the answer. It really starts in here. You gain courage. You find a way to, you know that you want to find a way to help, right? Or you go into most conversations, I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy of being here. Why would they want to talk to me, right? What can I get from them? If that's the tape that's playing, guess how you're not going to connect? So, I mean, I could give you other tactics of questions to ask and all that kind of stuff, but at the end of the day, the most authentic way to connect with a person is to become the kind of person that cares about people. My Aunt Rose, God bless her, she's passed away. She would walk into a room, and she wasn't big personality. She was so humble and so beautiful. And like the Dalai Lama, she would walk into the room, and other people would feel good about themselves. Right? God bless her. She would wear her knees out down at church every day, praying for everybody in the family. You know, she was our ambassador to every funeral. Has anybody else have an aunt like that? You know what I'm talking about? It's like always going to the funerals. And this woman she made everybody else feel good about themselves because she was that kind of person. And that takes hard work. That's not me. It's tough for me. I'm still spinning around my head, that insecure little kid, didn't think I was good enough, you know, didn't deserve to be at that school, didn't deserve to, all that stuff. And so I got to work hard. Spirituality. Become spiritual. Be grounded. Meditate. Pray. I mean, that's the core of relationships. You know, find a way to be more grounded, and you will find a way to connect with others. And that's probably the first thing, LK. And I know you are. You're a very spiritual guy. Yeah.
How you doing, Keith?
Oh.
Over here.
Oh, yeah. Where?
One quick
Yes.
question. Eric Merrill here, and I just wanted to reiterate what this gentleman behind me was talking about. Let's say I do what you do, and I'm in the room, and you're in this social conversation, and you're having this conversation with someone that you want to build a relationship, but the person next to you is kind of like maybe using you to get to this connection, or there's a lot of that in town. It's very competitive, and you know, you're building relationships, and you want the relationships to be authentic, and you want to help people, but how do you know you can make connections without being taken advantage of, so to speak? But still help people.
Yeah. Look, here's the way I get it. Here's the way I've chosen to deal with it. Number one, I can't live my life protecting myself against the 6% of assholes, because I'm cutting myself out from the 94% that aren't. And so I make the assumption that they're not, and I allow myself to get used. I consider it a spiritual journey. It doesn't bother me. So what? I've helped somebody that isn't going to help me back. Who cares? You know? I mean, who cares? You know, I get this all the time. My foster son, Daniel, gets pissed off because we do a lot of work with inner city kids. And Daniel's very protective of me. He's like, you know, that guy doesn't care about you. You know that guy's just using you. And I'm like, sweetie, it's okay. I got a lot to give, right? And they need it. Yeah, I'll buy him a pair of shoes. You know, he's just using you. He doesn't like you. I don't care. I feel better about myself. I'm doing this for me as much as I'm doing it for anybody else. So I mean, I guess that's part of it. Just who cares? Now, the same regard is be willing to walk away from relationships that could be damaging to your reputation, your image, or damaging to the people around you. Don't harbor people who will do others ill will. And be careful to curate those people out of your space. So if you're hanging out and having an authentic relationship with somebody that you're about to care about, and some individual comes over that you know is a user, and they're trying to suck off of you to get to know this individual, you can do one of several things. You can accidentally and politely not make the introduction, or just excuse yourself and say to this person, "Hey, we'll catch up later," and walk away. There's lots of ways you can avoid being the person that makes that fake introduction to somebody who this person now thinks you put a stamp on that person's head as a warm call. Be careful. Or even go as far as to say later to that person, "Hey, listen, I really can't vouch for this person. I don't know. I'm not saying he's a bad guy, but I just want to let you know, I don't really know him that well." That kind of a thing could be another way to deal with it. I'd like to take one more question and then end with a story. And I apologize. I've been told that we go dark at 8 or something like that. I'm not sure what it is. Now you can get me anytime. No. Yes.
My name's Jacqueline Friedlander, and I was wondering, what's a good way to find these events, especially in like a pay-to-play town where it's like $250 to go to this gala or to go to that? Where do you find these events?
Well, I got two thoughts. First of all, throw your own. That's what I do. And I remember when I first came to this town, I lived down in the flats in one of these duplex apartments kind of thing. I didn't have much money. And I was having dinner parties with Arianna Huffington, with, Bob Iger. He wasn't CEO of Disney at the time, and others. Don't feel that your surroundings aren't worthy of important people. So many of us get ashamed of where we live. We get ashamed of the fact we're not all that, right? And the answer is, if you create hospitality and you create an environment of intimacy, I don't care if you've got a small apartment that you have to turn the coffee table into the dining table. I don't care if you don't have the money to be able to afford, Sunshine's wonderful cooking, although it's very reasonable, and I would still suggest you do it. I would, I don't care if you have to go down and get, I got to tell you, some of the best chefs haven't made anything much better than Whole Foods rotisserie chicken. And box wine in a carafe looks just fine. Or fill it up in a bottle. Just don't let your excuses get in your way. And those are just excuses. So throw your own events. I've been doing this for a while. And I have a woman who runs my house. Her name is Gold. And she basically manages we call this ERM, Executive Relationship Management, putting a wrap around stuff. So and by the way, the entertainment industry has begun to become interesting to me. They don't buy stuff, so I can't sell my consulting services to them. They just, they sell stuff. But because I'm looking for greater reach for my message, I've gotten to the stage where my organization is running well, and what I really want is to begin to touch more people, and this industry does it, right? I mean, everybody remembered a movie called Pay It Forward? A wonderful movie, That movie probably made, more impact than one of my books has, because the number of people that read a book versus watch a movie and the global nature of it. So I'm becoming very interested in your industry for the reach and the impact that it can make. So we're now curating dinners at my home, entertaining people who can begin to usher us through this industry. And, do your own events. I don't go to those other events. I don't go to these black tie fancy things. I generally find, not saying you shouldn't, but what about 4 of you coming together, 3 of you coming together in a buddy system and start throwing events so you can do 4 times as many. So let's say you get your lifeline group, your group of 3, and you make a commitment that you're all going to put your list together. And that list is going to become the invite list for dinners. And you're going to share the cost of these dinners so you can have 3 times as many than you would have been able to afford yourself. And you start throwing these dinners on a weekly basis. Now, one of the things, and we described this pretty well in Never Eat Alone, one of the things you probably need is an anchor tenant. An anchor tenant of a dinner is somebody that people want to come to dinner with other than you. Because you got to recognize it is a town where, people want to know who's coming. And be conscious about it. It's like, listen, so I got to know Ariana originally because I had been a marketer, and I knew the head of marketing for Chrysler was coming through town. I invited him to my house for dinner. I reached out to Ariana, and I said, would you like to come to dinner with the head of marketing from Chrysler? Right? He was the anchor tenant. Once Ariana was at the house, we became friends. She's like, I had my last big book party at her house. I'm like, she's like a sister to me, her and Agape. Now, there are times when I'm an anchor tenant. Actually, nobody needs to be an anchor tenant for Ariana anymore. But there were times in the past when I would have been an anchor tenant if she was looking out to reach out to the Fortune 500 world. Now she can be an anchor tenant for me if I'm looking to get to know somebody that, and she's happy to do it. It's very conscious, it's open. Like, we're here to help each other. That's what friends do. So have your own events. Let me end with one story. And let me give you a couple ways to reach out to me, okay? Twitter, @KeithFarazi. I'll be checking all night. How about that, right? I'm usually pretty good with checking. Don't expect a response from Facebook. I have a fan page, so if you really want to follow what I'm doing and that kind of stuff, if you want to be like Jackie, follow what I'm doing, know that I'm going to be here, follow my Facebook, and then come early the next time, right? Or get to know some of the people I've been, hey, Sunshine, you're back. Or get to know some of the people I've been doing shout-outs on. Or hire Sunshine as your chef, and I promise you I'll spend some time with you, all right? I really, she's like a sister, and I want her to be a big success. Pardon me? It's all she does. I mean, she's the most powerful, vegan, gluten-free, all the crap that we wouldn't think we'd like to eat, she can do, and it like tastes good. It's fantastic. So anyway, where was I? Oh, the story. @KeithFarazi. You can follow me on Facebook. Get to know some of the folks around me. No. Yes.
I want to know about the philanthropical aspect of what you guys do. I'm really interested in that.
Yeah. Oh, well, we'll go online, and it's all there at KeithFarazi.com, all the philanthropy that we do, etc. Look, at this stage, it's not about money. At this stage, it's about making a difference. It's about making a dent in the world. It's about giving our stuff away and teaching our young people. It's about teaching returning vets how to curate their people skills so that they can actually get jobs instead of have 60% unemployment rate. Why am I here? I'm here because this is my community, but I don't spend a lot of time here. I don't know you people. I'm usually all over the world or the country, giving talks, doing my work, etc. I'm not that networked in my own hometown. I mean, I have a few really, really dear friends, but I'm not that rich. So I wanted to come. I wanted to put myself out there in your local community, and I wanted to give back. And hopefully I get to know some of you who are persistent, like some of the folks that have gotten to know me and who have become really dear friends, and many of whom I'll be having dinner with tonight. The story. When I was about 8 years old, and this is important, I want to just leave this with you because when I'm wondering whether I go up to talk to somebody, I conjure up this story. When I'm weak and feeling I don't deserve to be there, I conjure up this story for myself, and I remind myself. I was 8 years old. My dad had been unemployed for 6 months. And we had the ritual every Saturday that we would go around and visit my father's friends. And he'd call it doing rounds. We're going to go rounds. And rounds were going around to his friends, visiting his friends, and he'd show off his son. That was it. So, and by the way, his name was Pete. And his friends didn't even call me Keith. It was like, hey, Nancy, Pete and Repeat are here. Because I was never outside of my father's, company. So my dad and I were running around, we're doing the thing, and we're on our way home. We'd always stop at the Italian food market on the way. We'd get a chunk of pepperoni, a chunk of Italian bread. We'd stop along the side of the road, and Dad would tell me stories. Probably one of the reasons I love stories and I'm decent at telling them is because he trained me early. And the other reason we stopped is because Mom never let us eat that crap at home, so we'd make sure we ate it. Along the side of the road, he sees a pile of trash. We're sitting there. And in the pile of trash is a big wheel, like a 3-wheel plastic toy thing. And he gets up to go get this big wheel. And I knew what was going down. It's November. Christmas is in a month. We had no money. No way in hell we were going to afford Christmas presents. So Dad is getting up out of the car. What do you think it's like to be a 55-year-old proud steelworker picking up a piece of trash for your kid's Christmas present with him in the car? Right? Now, Dad didn't even think twice. He gets up, walks over, grabs the big wheel, walks up the sidewalk, right, to knock on the door to ask whether he can have it. Now, I think at this stage, because I'm so afraid that one of my classmates are going to go by, seeing us picking up trash, I think he's just doing this to torment me, right? And I'm hiding in the back of the car. Again, what do you think it's like to be that man whose son's embarrassed of him and still getting up and going and picking up that trash because you're going to provide for your family? Well, look, he gets up there and the woman is motioning. You know, of course you can have the big wheel, right? We're all Italian, so I knew what they were saying. We speak with sign language. And she says, wait a second. She goes into the garage. She pulls out a bicycle, right? At this stage, I don't give a damn. I'm up out of the car. I'm walking up the sidewalk. I'm thinking, I can influence this transaction, okay? She sees me, and she goes back, and I was right, by the way. She goes back into the garage. She pulls up the garage door, and she said, sir, maybe this is too much, and I don't know if it's okay, but may I give your son this go-kart, this mechanical go-kart? Can I give your son this go-kart for Christmas? And I'm like, cha-ching, you know. I'm like so overjoyed. And I still have pictures of me with this big helmet that didn't even fit, like over my head. My dad had to wrap on the gas pedal, had to wrap a block of wood with duct tape, you know, just so I could reach it. And it was the best Christmas I could ever possibly imagine. Dad's passed away 10 years ago. I go back and visit my mom. And I always go by that old gray Victorian house right across from the Latrobe Country Club. And I park my car. And I talk to my pop a little bit. And I think, and this is the key, I think about how that woman must have felt Christmas Eve. Right? Doing her dishes. Maybe the grandkids are home. She must have been thinking about how she helped that little boy at Christmas. Who got the better gift? She did. Amen. She got the better gift. Why do I say this? 2 lessons here. My dad used to always say one thing to me, Keith, don't ever be afraid to ask. The worst anybody could ever say is no. You know, it would have been so easy for me, knowing that Barry Diller was going to go by, to not feel like I was worthy of making that outreach, being less aggressive, stepping back, etc. But you know what? Damn it. I got dreams. I got goals. I'm going to make a dent in this universe. Don't ever be afraid to ask. The worst anybody could ever say is no. Because I guarantee you, if you don't ask, what's the answer? No. that's tantamount to the answer, right? So that's step 1. The step 2 is think of that woman. Think of that woman. I mean, that woman got the greater gift. There are people in your lives that want to help you right now, and you are not letting them. Why are you depriving them of the gift of helping you? Who are those people? Are they parents who would like to support you and be supportive? Are they lovers and friends who you just don't want to bother them? Who are the people that want to be there? Are they neighbors who you haven't even created enough of an environment around yourself to invite them in the first place? But imagine a switch, a change in your life where you make the decision to begin to create that environment, cultivate those relationships, lead with generosity, authentically accelerating those relationships around you. The world that you can change, you know, is not just theirs, and not just yours, but there is a greater world that we can change. And imagine if a third of the people in this room actually did something with this shit. Right? I mean, this is the kind of stuff that you can ignite. And it's up to you. Do you want to do that in your life? Do you want to begin to curate and manage and have those kind of relationships? And then do you want to be the evangelist for more people? But sometimes the pinnacle of generosity is just letting other people help you too. So don't forget that. Look, my hope is that you only just do one thing. I've said a lot of stuff. Go online, go to keithferrazzi.com. There's a lot of free stuff. Go to YouTube, tons of clips. And I hate the camera, but I'm getting better. I like this, right? Just me and a camera is like scary to me, very scared shitless actually. But I'm getting better. Go online, try some stuff, little incremental eyedroppers. One step at a time, I guarantee you, you'll begin to change your habits and behaviors. It'll become contagious. You'll live a new life. The people around you will be more rich and robust. A year from now, you start practicing this in small missions on a weekly basis. Go to My Greenlight. You know, it's called mygreenlight.com. Learn those missions. The things that I've got right here, just use these. You know, this stuff's all free. Curate it, use it, manage it, give it, live a better life. Good luck. God bless.